Stop scrolling for a sec. If you are a dance or healing movement teacher, I have an important PSA for you of how to help your students if they dissociate during class. So, over the past 4 years, I've been helping people with trauma and histories of trauma reconnect with their bodies and find healing through dance. And in my classes, the majority of my students are trans or queer or non-binary or disabled or BIPOC, some mix of that. So um, we have a lot of trauma, right? We have a lot of histories of trauma within our bodies. And you better believe that dissociation during dance class, it happens. And just to define dissociation real quick in sort of layman's terms, it's when we become so activated and overwhelmed that we kind of check out of our body and are sort of left in this sort of shell state. And I wanted to share a story of how you can help your students when they're going through this because dissociation happens, but it can be pretty scary and dangerous. So, this is a safety tip for you teachers out there who care about your students. So, hey, Sheila, um, quick story. I was teaching a trauma informed burlesque class, and this is a virtual class. And I could see all of my students dancing on screen. And one of my students is a young trans woman who was recently kicked out of her house by her parents and was just kind of still finding her feet. So there's a lot going on, but she was showing up for class and wanted to connect with her body through burlesque. Now, as we're doing this like movement exercise, I noticed that all of a sudden she becomes very still. Right? She becomes very still. She stopped moving. Her eyes looked kind of blank, right? There was sort of a 1,000-yard stare happening. Her posture became hunched, and it was very difficult to see whether or not she was breathing. It looked like her breathing had kind of like stopped in her chest. And for a lot of teachers out there, you might have, maybe I would have done this years ago, but like taken it personally. Maybe thought like, oh, someone doesn't like my teaching, or this prompt maybe isn't landing. I did something wrong. But if you see your students do this, I'm going to encourage you to take a deep breath, use your bubble magic, as I call it in my somatic techniques, and just notice what you're seeing. And so I saw my student and said, okay, maybe these are signs of dissociation because I've dissociated during dance class too. And sometimes it looks like kind of that checked out look. Um, so after that movement prompt ended, I said, okay, I'm going to check in on my student. So I went over in the Zoom chat and just did a little like, hey, are you doing okay? I noticed that you stopped moving. I just want to see if anything was coming up for you, right? So you don't have to label your students as saying, it looks like you're dissociating, because maybe they weren't. But what you can do is ask an open-ended question and just see what's going on. Did something come up? Are you feeling something right now? Is there any way I can help? So I checked in with my student and she said, yeah, actually I was dissociating. I remembered a incident where like somebody misgendered me in public earlier today, and it just like really rattled me and I just didn't feel good. So as we were moving, I don't know why it came up, but it just did. So what I told them to do next is offered an invitation. Using invitational language is part of being trauma informed, right? They can choose whether or not to do it. So I invited them to just attend to their needs in real time. So whatever you got to do to take care of yourself right now, you're fully invited to do it. You don't have to push through to keep up with this class. I'll be here. There's a recording. And like, what's more important to me is your safety. So they were able to grab some water, bundle up with a little blanket, find some grounding, and just reconnect with their senses. And this is why I teach somatics and embed somatics into my dance classes, because when students are struggling with dissociation like this, it's really helpful to give them actual impactful tools so that they can feel better. And in this case, with my student, she appreciated that checking in and was able to recover. Now, after the fact, I checked in with another student who was actually a dance teacher. And when they were like, oh, okay, I would have not known what to do, right? I would have seen my student in distress and just been like, wow, this is like beyond my skill to help them. Like, I don't know what to do. And that's why I created a toolkit for people who work with movement, work with people in embodied states. Um, Coaches, therapists, teachers, and healers, like, I created a somatic toolkit so that you know what to do and you have tools to help your students when they are in states of distress like dissociation. So if this helped you, if any of these like teaching tips and guidances helped you, please feel free to like share the knowledge, share this with somebody who could benefit from it, and check out my toolkit. It is the Feelin' Better toolkit at yourgaydanceteacher.com. And I've got 5 really effective somatic techniques that I use in my teaching all the time to help my students feel better after trauma. So, love you lots. Thanks for tuning in. Aw, thanks, Sheila. I'm glad you liked the story, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. All right, see you all tomorrow. Bye.